I woke up in his arms, our bodies still tangled in silk sheets. I had no idea that in 48 hours, he'd be sitting across from me in a boardroom, deciding my fate. Emma's reflection stared back at her through the ornate Venetian mask, the silver filigree catching the dim light of her apartment. 3 months since James shattered her heart, leaving her for his assistant. 3 months of rebuilding herself, piece by piece. Tonight was supposed to be their engagement party. Instead, she was going alone to the Rosewood charity masquerade, determined to prove she didn't need him. The ballroom took her breath away. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across marble floors where masked strangers waltzed in elaborate gowns and tuxedos. Emma grabbed champagne from a passing tray, the bubbles sharp against her tongue. She felt invisible behind her mask, liberated from the weight of expectation. "You look like you're about to bolt." The voice came from behind her, deep and warm like aged whiskey. Emma turned to find a man in a midnight blue tuxedo, his silver mask matching hers. Even concealed, she could see sharp jawlines, dark hair touched with gray at the temples, and eyes that seemed to see straight through her disguise. "That obvious?" she managed, her pulse quickening. "Only to someone who feels the same way." He extended his hand. "Dance with me? No names, no stories. Just this moment." Emma hesitated. This wasn't like her. She was the careful one, the planner. But tonight, behind this mask, she could be anyone. She took his hand. They moved together like they'd been dancing for years. His hand on her waist burned through the silk of her dress. They didn't speak, didn't need to. The music swelled around them, but Emma only heard her heartbeat thundering in her ears. When he pulled her closer, she didn't resist. When he whispered, "Come with me," against her ear, she nodded. They slipped through the French doors onto the terrace. The city glittered below them, a galaxy of lights stretching into infinity. He traced her jawline with his thumb, and Emma's breath caught. "I don't do this. I don't know you." "Maybe that's why it feels right," he murmured, his lips inches from hers. "No past, no future, just now." When he kissed her, Emma felt something crack open inside her chest. This wasn't gentle or hesitant. This was raw, desperate, like two drowning people finding air. She pulled him closer, her fingers tangling in his hair, every nerve ending alive. "My place is 10 minutes away," he breathed against her lips. Emma knew she should say no. Instead, she said, "Let's go." His penthouse overlooked the city like a kingdom of stars, floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around sleek furniture and modern art, but Emma barely noticed. The moment the door closed, they collided. His hands found the zipper of her dress, while hers worked the buttons of his shirt. They left a trail of clothing from the foyer to the bedroom, masks discarded with their inhibitions. "Wait," Emma gasped as they reached his bed. She needed to know something, anything. "Tell me something real, not your name, just something true." He cupped her face, his eyes intense in the moonlight streaming through the windows. "I finalized my divorce today. 10 years of marriage ended with signatures on paper. I came to that ball feeling hollow, like I'd lost myself somewhere along the way." His thumb brushed her lips. "Then I saw you, and for the first time in months, I felt alive." Emma's heart clenched. She understood that hollowness, that feeling of being a ghost in your own life. "My fiancé left me 3 months ago, for someone younger, prettier. He said I was too ambitious, too focused on my career. Tonight was supposed to be our engagement party." "Then he was a fool," he said fiercely. "You're extraordinary." They came together with a tenderness that surprised her. His lips traced patterns down her neck, while his hands explored her curves with reverent attention. Emma arched into his touch. Her fingers mapped into planes of his chest, the ridge of muscle along his abdomen. Every caress felt like a conversation, every kiss an answer to questions she didn't know she had been asking. When they finally joined, Emma gasped at the intensity. They moved together in perfect rhythm, building slowly towards something transcendent. His name was a question on her lips, but she didn't ask. Instead, she whispered, "Don't stop," as waves of pleasure crashed over her. He buried his face in her neck as he shuddered against her, both of them suspended in that perfect moment of connection. Afterward, they lay tangled in silk sheets, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy circles on her shoulder. "I wish I could know you," she murmured. "The real you." "Maybe the real us is who we are right now," he said softly. "No masks, no names, no expectations. Just two people being completely honest." They talked until dawn, sharing dreams and fears without the burden of identity. When the first light touched the horizon, Emma knew she had to leave. Some moments were too perfect to extend. She dressed quietly, stealing one last look at him sleeping. Then she disappeared, carrying only memories. Monday morning arrived with cruel efficiency. Emma stood before the glass tower of Sterling Enterprises, her new ID badge cool against her palm. 6 months of interviews, 3 rounds of presentations, countless late nights preparing. She'd landed her dream job as senior marketing director, a position that would finally prove to everyone, especially herself, that she was enough. The lobby buzzed with energy. Emma joined the stream of employees heading toward the main conference hall for the company-wide meeting. "Emergency gathering," someone whispered. "New CEO is addressing everyone. Alexander Sterling himself, back from the London office." Emma's stomach fluttered with first-day nerves. She found a seat in the middle section, smoothing her navy blazer. Around her, people whispered speculation about the mysterious CEO who'd been managing European operations for the past 5 years. "I heard he's ruthless," the woman next to Emma murmured. "Fired half the London team for underperformance." "I heard he's brilliant," another voice countered. "Tripled their revenue in 3 years." The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the crowd. Emma's heart hammered as footsteps echoed across the stage. She looked up. The world tilted. Him, the man from the masquerade, her stranger, walking across the stage in a charcoal suit, commanding the room with quiet authority. His dark hair was styled differently, professional, but those eyes, those hands, that mouth that had traced every inch of her body. Their gazes locked across 300 people. Emma watched his steps falter, his composed expression crack for just a second. Recognition flashed in his eyes, followed by something that looked like panic. "Good morning." His voice filled the auditorium, that same deep timbre that had whispered against her skin. "I'm Alexandra Sterling, your new CEO." Emma couldn't breathe. This couldn't be happening. Her one night, her beautiful mistake, her secret was now her boss, the man who controlled her career, her future. Alexander continued his speech about vision and growth, but his eyes kept finding hers, a silent conversation happening beneath his words. Emma saw questions there, confusion, and something that might have been longing. When the meeting ended, Emma bolted. She made it to the bathroom before her hands started shaking. This was impossible. She'd just started. She couldn't quit. But how could she work here, seeing him every day, remembering every touch, every whispered confession? Her phone buzzed. An email from Alexander Sterling's office. "Ms. Chen, please report to the executive floor immediately." Emma stared at her reflection, seeing the fear in her own eyes. She'd spent one night being fearless. Now she'd have to face the consequences. Taking a deep breath, she headed for the elevator. The executive floor was silent, elegant, intimidating. Emma's heels clicked against marble as Alexander's assistant, a severe woman named Patricia, led her down a corridor lined with portraits of Sterling ancestors. Each face seemed to judge her. "Mr. Sterling will see you now," Patricia said, opening massive oak doors. Alexander stood by the window, his back to her, hands clasped behind him. The door closed with a definitive click. They were alone. Emma Chen, marketing director, Stanford MBA, previously at Morgan Creative. Exemplary recommendations. He turned slowly, his face an unreadable mask. "When I reviewed new hire files this morning, I didn't expect to find you." "I didn't know," Emma said, hating how her voice shook. "I swear I had no idea who you were." "I know." Something flickered in his eyes, quickly suppressed. "Which is why this conversation is necessary. What happened that night cannot happen again. Not here, not ever." Each word was precisely controlled, completely different from the man who'd held her with desperate tenderness. Emma lifted her chin. "I'm aware of that, Mr. Sterling." "Are you?" He moved closer and Emma thought the urge to step back. "Because I need to be absolutely certain you understand. This company has policies. I have a responsibility to shareholders, to employees. Personal entanglements between executives and staff are prohibited." "I'm not asking for entanglements," Emma said sharply. "I'm here to do my job. That's all." "Good." He returned to his desk, putting distance between them. "Your first project is the Meridian campaign. Report to James Holbrook in marketing." Dismissed. Emma turned to leave, anger and hurt warring in her chest. "Emma." His voice stopped her at the door. When she looked back, his professional mask had slipped. "For what it's worth, I looked for you after that night. I sent people to the venue, checked guest list, tried to find any trace. When I couldn't..." He trailed off, then seemed to remember himself. "It doesn't matter now. This is how it has to be." The following weeks were torture. Every meeting, every presentation, every accidental encounter in the hallway crackled with unspoken tension. Alexander was ice, professional to the point of cruelty. He critiqued her work with detached precision, never letting his eyes linger, never allowing himself to be alone with her. But Emma caught moments. His hand trembling when she passed him documents, the way he closed his eyes when she spoke, as if her voice caused physical pain. How he stood when she entered a room, some unconscious instinct to be near her. They were strangers pretending they'd never been intimate, and it was destroying them both. 3 weeks of Arctic professionalism finally broke on a Thursday night. Emma worked late on the Meridian pitch, the office emptying floor by floor until silence pressed against her cubicle walls. She was perfecting her presentation when footsteps approached. "You're still here." Alexander stood at her cubicle entrance, his tie loosened, exhaustion evident in the lines around his eyes. Gone was the CEO armor. He looked human, vulnerable. "Meridian presentation is tomorrow," Emma said, her pulse quickening. "I want it perfect." "It's already perfect. You're brilliant at what you do." He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture achingly familiar. "Emma, we need to talk. Really talk." "I thought we couldn't," she said carefully. "We can't, but I'm going insane pretending I don't know how you taste, how you feel." The words tumbled out, raw and desperate. "Come with me. Please." He led her to his office, locking the door behind them. The city glittered beyond the windows, the same view from his penthouse, but somehow entirely different. Alexander poured 2 glasses of scotch with shaking hands. "The night of the masquerade, I was at my lowest point. My divorce had just finalized. My ex-wife had taken everything in the settlement because I'd been absent, always working, choosing this company over my family. She wasn't wrong. He took a long drink. My daughter barely knew me. I'd become this empty shell, successful on paper but hollow inside. Emma's chest tightened. You have a daughter? Sophie. She's 7. Lives with her mother in Boston. Pain crossed his face. I went to that ball because my therapist said I needed to try feeling something again. Then I saw you, and everything just ignited. Why didn't you try to find me? Emma whispered. I did. God, Emma, I searched everywhere. I hired a private investigator, had him comb through every piece of footage from the venue, but you were like smoke, beautiful and impossible to hold. He set down his glass, moving closer. When I saw you in that conference hall, I thought I was hallucinating. Then I realized the cruelest irony of my life. I finally found you, and I couldn't have you. Alexander, Emma breathed. Company policy forbids relationships between executives and employees. If anyone found out about us, you'd be forced to leave. Your career would be questioned forever. I won't do that to you. His voice broke. So I stay away. I act cold. I pretend that night meant nothing when it meant everything. Emma closed the distance between them, her hand finding his. What if I said it meant everything to me too? His control shattered. Alexander kissed her like a man starving, his hands cradling her face as if she might disappear. Emma melted into him, 6 weeks of tension releasing in that desperate contact. This was wrong, dangerous, career-ending. She kissed him harder. We can't, he gasped against her lips, even as he pulled her closer. I know, Emma whispered, her fingers tangling in his hair. We absolutely can't. They broke apart, breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. Reality crashed back. Alexander stepped away, his expression anguished. I'm sorry, that was inappropriate. It won't happen again. But it did happen again. And again. They became masters of stolen moments, his hand brushing hers when passing documents, the touch lingering a second too long, Emma's fingers grazing his shoulder during presentations, feeling him tense beneath her touch. Late nights when everyone else had gone home, finding excuses to be in the same empty conference room, the air between them electric. Text messages became their lifeline. Late at night when the city slept, Alexander would text, "Can't stop thinking about you." Emma would reply, "This is dangerous." He'd respond, "I know. I don't care." They created a language of glances. In meetings, one look could communicate volumes. A slight tilt of his head meant, "Meet me later." Her touching her necklace meant, "I want you." Their colleagues noticed nothing, but every interaction was foreplay, every professional exchange loaded with subtext. One night, they broke. Emma stayed late working on the Henderson account. Alexander appeared at her cubicle at midnight, stress evident in his posture. "I need to review your progress," he said formally, but his eyes said something else entirely. They made it to his office, the door locked. And then they were kissing against his desk, her skirt riding up, his hands everywhere. "If we do this," Emma gasped, "there's no going back." "I crossed that line the moment I danced with you," Alexander said, lifting her onto his desk. "I'm already too far gone." They made love with desperate urgency, trying to be quiet, every sound dangerous. Afterward, Alexander held her, their hearts gradually slowing. "I'm falling for you, not just the woman from the masquerade. You, the brilliant, ambitious woman who challenges me every day." "I'm already fallen," Emma admitted. They dressed quickly, paranoid of cleaning crews or security. Before leaving, Alexander cupped her face. "We'll figure this out, somehow." But as Emma drove home, doubt crept in. How could they figure this out? One of them would have to leave, and she'd worked too hard to give up her career for a man again. Emma stared at her phone screen, her blood turning to ice. The image was grainy, clearly taken from a distance, but unmistakable. Her leading Alexander's office at 11 p.m., hair disheveled, lipstick smudged. Behind her, barely visible in the doorway, Alexander with his tie loose, shirt partially untucked. The email had no sender name, just a subject line. Interesting. And the photo attachment. Emma's hands shook as she forwarded it to Alexander with trembling fingers. His response came within seconds. My office. Now. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt like ascending to her execution. Alexander waited at his door, his face ashen. I received the same photo, he said, pulling her inside, from an anonymous account. Who? Emma's voice cracked. Who would do this? I don't know, but whoever it is, they're not just observing, they're threatening. He showed her his phone. Another message had arrived. How does the board feel about executives sleeping with their subordinates? Shall we find out? Emma sank into a chair, her career flashing before her eyes. Everything she'd built, every sacrifice, every late night proving herself, gone. This is it, isn't it? I'm finished. No. Alexander's voice was steel. This is blackmail. I won't let them destroy you. You can't stop this, Emma said bitterly. Once HR investigates, once this becomes official, I'm the one who loses. You're a sterling. You own half this company. I'm the ambitious woman who slept her way to advancement. Never mind that I earned every success. Then we get ahead of it. We go to HR first. We disclose the relationship before they force us. That's the same result. They'll make me transfer or resign to avoid scandal. Emma stopped, pacing. I won't do it. I won't give up everything I've worked for. Alexander grabbed her shoulders. Then I'll step down. Emma stared at him. What? I'll request a transfer. Same company, different division. I'll take a position that doesn't have authority over you. His eyes burned with intensity. You're not losing your job because of me. You can't sacrifice your career for this, for us. Watch me. He pulled her close. That night at the masquerade, I told you I felt hollow. Then I found you. You made me remember what it feels like to be alive, to want something beyond quarterly reports and shareholder meetings. I'm not losing that again. Before Emma could respond, his office phone rang. Patricia's voice came through the speaker, tight with concern. Mr. Sterling, HR Director Morrison requests an urgent meeting with you and Miss Chen immediately. They'd run out of time. The HR conference room felt like the courtroom. Director Morrison, a stern woman in her 50s, sat across from them with a manila folder. Two other HR representatives flanked her, their expressions professionally neutral, but their judgment obvious. Thank you for coming, Morrison began. We've received concerning information regarding your professional relationship. She slid a printout of the photograph across the table. Would either of you like to explain this? Alexander leaned forward, his voice steady. Before you continue, I want to make a formal disclosure. Miss Chen and I are involved in a personal relationship. It began before she started employment here, though neither of us knew the other's identity at the time. Morrison's expression didn't change. When did you become aware of this prior connection? Her first day. During the company-wide meeting, Alexander said. We've maintained professional boundaries since then, with one recent lapse in judgment. Recent lapse? Morrison's eyebrow raised. Our source indicates multiple after-hours meetings, extended private conversations, and intimate conduct in your office. Emma's face burned. Someone had been watching them closely, documenting everything. The thought made her skin crawl. "Who's making these allegations?" Alexander demanded. "That's not relevant to this investigation. What matters is that we have substantial evidence of policy violations. Mr. Sterling, as CEO, you're responsible for maintaining professional standards. Ms. Chen, you signed an agreement acknowledging our relationship policies." She paused. "We're prepared to offer Ms. Chen a generous severance package in exchange for her resignation." "No," Alexander said sharply. "That's not acceptable." "I'm afraid it's not negotiable." "I'll step down as CEO," Alexander interrupted. The room went silent. Even Morrison looked shocked. "Effective immediately. I'll transition to an executive position in the technology division. Same company, different chain of command. Miss Chen's position remains unchanged." "Alexander, no," Emma whispered. He didn't look at her. "I'm requesting this transfer formally. You can present it to the board as a strategic reorganization. I've been wanting to focus more on innovation anyway. This solves your problem without sacrificing an exceptional employee." Morrison exchanged glances with her colleagues. "Mr. Sterling, this is highly irregular. The board will have concerns." "The board will accept my decision. I'm still a majority shareholder." His tone left no room for argument. "Draw up the paperwork. I want this resolved by end of day." After they left HR, Emma grabbed Alexander's arm in the hallway. "You can't do this. CEO is everything you've worked for." "No," he said softly, touching her face. "You're everything. The job is just a job. But you're the life I want." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know if I'm worth that." "Let me prove you are." Alexander's sacrifice should have solved everything. Instead, it unleashed chaos. The board emergency meeting lasted 6 hours. Emma waited in her apartment, her phone clutched in her hand, watching news alerts populate her screen. Sterling CEO steps down in surprise move. Corporate romance scandal rocks Sterling Enterprises. Alexander Sterling, love or liability? When Alexander finally called, exhaustion weighted his voice. "The board accepted my transfer. I'm officially heading the tech division starting Monday. We're in the clear." But they weren't. 2 days later, a woman appeared in the Sterling Enterprises lobby demanding to see Alexander. Security called his office. "There's a Victoria Sterling here. Says she's your ex-wife. She's insisting." "Send her up," Alexander said, his face going pale. Emma watched from her floor as Victoria Sterling emerged from the elevator. She was elegant, poised, every inch the society wife, and she was heading straight for Alexander's new office with a lawyer in tow. The meeting lasted 20 minutes. When Victoria left, she paused at Emma's cubicle. "You must be Emma Chen, the woman my ex-husband destroyed his career for." "I didn't ask him to." "Didn't you?" Victoria's smile was sharp. "Alexander may think he's moved on, but he's still my daughter's father. And Sophie needs stability, not a father chasing inappropriate relationships." She leaned closer. "My lawyer will be filing for full custody. We'll argue that Alexander's recent behavior demonstrates poor judgment and instability. Unless, of course, he ends this relationship and focuses on being a responsible parent." Emma felt sick. "You're using your daughter as leverage?" "I'm protecting her," Victoria said. "And you should ask yourself, is your relationship worth costing a little girl her father?" After Victoria left, Emma found Alexander in his office, his head in his hands. "She means it," he said. "Her lawyer has documentation of everything. The scandal, my stepping down, our relationship. They'll paint me as unstable, unreliable. Then we end it, Emma said, though the words felt like swallowing glass. You have to fight for Sophie. Emma. She's your daughter, Alexander. She's 7 years old and she needs her father. Emma's voice broke. I can't be the reason you lose her. That evening, Emma's parents called. Her mother's voice was tight with disappointment. The Chinese news outlets are covering the story. Your father and I are humiliated. You finally get a good job and you throw it away for some man? Emma hung up, feeling crushed from all sides. Her family's disapproval, Victoria's ultimatum, the weight of Alexander's sacrifices. Maybe love wasn't enough. Maybe some prices were too high to pay. Emma submitted her resignation on Friday morning, not because HR demanded it, not because of the scandal, but because she finally understood she needed to choose herself. I'm starting my own consulting firm, she told Alexander in his office, her voice steady despite her breaking heart. I've been building other people's brands for years. It's time to build my own. Emma, you don't have to. Yes, I do. She touched his face gently, not because of Victoria's threats or my parents' disappointment, because I deserve to create something that's completely mine, that no one can take away. She smiled through tears. You taught me that. That night at the masquerade, you said maybe the real us is who we are without expectations. I'm finally figuring out who that person is. Alexander pulled her close. I love you. That doesn't change. I love you too. But maybe love means giving each other space to grow. 6 months later, Emma stood in her own office space, reviewing contracts with her third major client. Chen Brand Consulting was thriving. She'd taken Sterling Enterprises' Meridian campaign with her, and its success had attracted attention. She was building something real, something hers. The knock on her door surprised her. Alexander stood there, and beside him, a little girl with his dark eyes and the shy smile. Emma, Alexander said, I want you to meet someone. This is Sophie, my daughter. Emma's heart stuttered. Hello, Sophie. Daddy says you're important. Are you his girlfriend? Alexander knelt beside his daughter. Sophie and I have been talking. She knows that Daddy made some big changes this year because he met someone special. And we both decided we want that someone in our lives. He looked up at Emma. Victoria and I reached a new custody arrangement, 50-50. She's even dating someone new. Turns out she wasn't trying to keep Sophie from me. She was testing whether I'd choose my daughter. I did, and Sophie chose to meet you. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Alexander stood, pulling a silver mask from his pocket, the mate to hers from that night. Dance with me again. No hiding this time. No secrets. Just us, and whatever future we want to build. Emma took the mask, then his hand. Just us. They kissed while Sophie giggled, and Emma realized this was better than the fairy tale. This was real, messy, earned. This was two people who found each other, lost each other, and fought their way back to something true. This was love unmasked. And that's how Emma found her happy ending. Not by choosing between love and her dreams, but by building a life where she could have both. Sometimes the greatest love story is learning to love yourself first. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional romance stories that will make you believe in love again. Drop a heart in the comments if you're Team Alexander, or a clap if you're Team Emma, choosing herself. What would you have done in her situation? Let me know below. See you in the next story.